When it comes back, when it comes to back squatting, I know I've seen you warm up barefoot until you get to heavier weights. Is this something you do with intention or is it pure feel thing? So for my case personally, sometimes I just like doing it. Sometimes when I'm just too damn lazy to put back on my weightlifting shoes, because I'm very experienced and I'm very good at squatting, it's something that doesn't really matter to me too much if I'm at a certain percentage bracket. I would never do this on a really heavy session unless there was a very specific reason. So if I'm just kind of maintaining my squat or very early in the process or doing a lighter session, sometimes I'll just do them barefoot just because I enjoy how it feels, but it's certainly not a better way of going about your squat training. Now, in general, squatting barefoot can be useful in the same way that we recommend sometimes it's good to take away your belt or take away your knee sleeves when you're training in this, what I can only describe as kind of holistic way of going about training, where there's no immediate benefit to not squatting with your knee sleeves. There's no immediate benefit to not squatting with your belt or your shoes. These things don't make you weaker per se, but rather what we're looking at here is, I suppose if you kind of think of it like sports performance, if we're less specific with our sports performance and then we get more specific, it's sort of in that trend where you just improve your ability to do that movement a little bit when we do some of these things. If you're really used to squatting with knee sleeves and our belt on, it is nice every so often, if you're pretty adept and you're confident, to do some amount of squatting without those on. It makes the movement just a little bit more challenging and it makes it a little bit harder to maintain positions. It makes it a little bit harder to catch the bounce. It makes you brace just a little bit differently when we remove these things. There's no real need to do it and there's no immediate changes where someone has a particular problem and we can say, okay, remove all the equipment and this is going to fix all those issues. Really what it is just a way of just slightly changing that movement so you get a little bit of different learning, kind of calibrating things a little bit, and it lets you know how certain things feel. Now, sometimes over the last year as well, you would have seen I was squatting barefoot, and that was purely to stop as much forward knee travel because when my quad tendon and MCL were very, very sad, when I pushed those knees too far forward with the weightlifting shoes on, that would have irritated it. And even though it was a less good quality squat, something that really helped just kind of modulate the intensity a little bit. Now, in that vein as well, some people are very bad at holding themselves back, especially if they're programming for themselves, especially if they're in their off season or they need to take a bit of downtime. Some people just cannot restrain themselves with the load in training. And this can be a good way of artificially holding yourself back because you can actually get very, very close to your max with your equipment, unless it's like crazy tight knee sleeves or a squat suit. For the most part, if it's 7mm less knee sleeves and normal belt and shoes, you can actually get very, very close to your max attempts with a bit of training. But in the short term, when you take them off, things feel a little bit different, feel a little bit worse, different feeling kind of proprioception, different feeling of stability. Doing that artificially holds you back, but it also gives you just a little bit of this nice internal calibration where you think, okay, that kind of feels nice. I can feel where my toes are. Oh, I have to really work to drive my knees forward. I have to really work to keep my torso in a good position. And so for a little bit of training without your equipment can be incredibly beneficial. But then on that same vein, if you just aren't in a good position to squat, so for example, Aaron's not going to do a barefoot squatting in his training because it's hard enough time maintaining good positions with the shoes on, just to his mobility restrictions, some of his build. So in that case, it could be useful, but in reality, in his particular position, it's probably going to make things even worse because it's going to take him even really far away from those positions. And it would be such a long process to really go from that barefoot squat to a normal style of squat that could be productive for him. So if you're in a really particularly bad position of squatting, in those scenarios, specifically barefoot squatting wouldn't be a stupendous idea. You could do a little bit in the warm up, but I wouldn't be doing a lot of working sets because it just wouldn't be that productive because you'd be so far from what you want to be doing for so long that you'd probably just lose pretty good shape and condition because you'd be months building up to it, unless that was a particular thing you wanted to do. Barefoot squats look quite cool, high bar, but if they're a nice squat, you know. So this is 250, no belt, no sleeves, no shoesies.
Oh, there we go.
That's a
and a
pause.
pause. No bounce. And no.
That's a legitimate pause as well, like an actual pause.